On Friday, 10 May 1940, the German army invaded Belgium, Luxembourg, and France. The 7th Panzer Division's lead element, the 7th Motorcycle Battalion, was commanded by Major Frederick Steinkeller. At 1800, his lead company was stopped by enemy fire at the village of Chabrehez in Belgium. That first day, the battalion moved continuously for 12 hours, crossing southern Belgium. The battalion's objective was Chabrehez, a staging area to cross the Outre River. The battalion's mission was to find unrestricted routes in order to move the division west as rapidly as possible. Chabrehez was defended by a company of Belgian infantry. They had no armor and no artillery support. Their blocking mission was to delay the Germans in order to provide time to establish a defensive line. East of the village, in the river bottom, the Belgians built an obstacle on the bridge with tree trunks, furniture, and farm equipment. Along the river, they blocked the north approach with wire and the south side with a ditch. When the Belgian defenders fired on the leading German units at the bridge, Major Steinkeller decided to wait for reinforcements. But then General Rommel arrived. "What are you waiting for?" he said. "We cannot stop. You must attack, Steinkeller. Clear this road to get the division moving. I want vehicles through that village before dark." Rommel believed that the best way to deal with the chaos of combat was to stay with the main effort and maintain that unit's momentum. At 1800, Lieutenant Catton's Belgian infantry platoon opened fire. The Germans pulled back. 2. The Belgian company commander, Lieutenant Lejeune, hastily withdrew with his support platoon. 3. German Captain Helbron, CO of 1st Motorcycle Company, flanked south. His 4 light tanks got stuck in the mud, and his soldiers were repulsed by Lieutenant Surma's Belgian rifle platoon and the machine guns of Lieutenant Benjamin Gourmet. 4. In Talus, Major Steinkeller decided to wait for reinforcements. The division commander arrived and directed Steinkeller to attack. 5. German Captain Hagen, CO of the Heavy Weapons Company, established a support by fire position near the bridge. 6. German Lieutenant Kleinschmidt, CO of 2nd Motorcycle Company, navigated around the bridge 1 kilometer north of the village. Shifting the fires of the support by fire, Lieutenant Kleinschmidt conducted 2 attacks, 1 shallow and 1 deep. 1 platoon attacked Lieutenant Caton from the rear. The rest of the company enveloped and cleared the village. 7. At 2100, Major Steinkeller reported that Chabrehez was secure. 50 Belgian soldiers were captured. The division staged at Chabrehez to cross the Outre River. The division fought at Marche and Lyon before arriving at Dinant. They crossed the Meuse River on the 4th day of the invasion. German doctrine encouraged deep and narrow penetration attacks that ignored the threats on both flanks. For the attack on Chabrehez, Major Steinkeller issued his orders in front of a farmhouse, from a map, to his 3 company commanders, who made notes on their own maps. It took less than 15 minutes. Major Steinkeller's estimate of the situation reflected his tactical training. What pattern did he see? Major Steinkeller saw a hasty roadblock, isolated from any supporting enemy units. He believed that the debris at the choke point, covered by infantry weapons, was likely a rifle platoon. There were no enemy vehicles, heavy weapons, mortars, or mines. Major Steinkeller had trained his own soldiers on this same expedient roadblock technique. What did he expect would happen? Major Steinkeller expected that the enemy would open fire with infantry weapons and try to delay his advance as long as possible. When they ran out of ammunition, or when they were about to be overwhelmed or outflanked, the Belgians would withdraw west. Major Steinkeller did not expect any enemy reinforcements to arrive. What was not ordinary? Major Steinkeller did not see anything out of the ordinary. He watched for surprises, armor, anti-tank weapons, or artillery, but they never came. The roadblock was exactly what it looked like, an unsupported position, likely manned by less than 100 soldiers. What was important? What were the big picture priorities? Major Steinkeller's task was to find routes for the division. Speed was important. Traffic jams were vulnerable to air attack. Because darkness was approaching, moving forward during daylight was critical. Everything would slow after dark. What clues did he watch for? Major Steinkeller watched for any evidence of enemy artillery. Artillery would mean that a higher headquarters was supporting a large web of blocking positions. Adjacent units might provide mutual support or counterattack with reinforcements from a surprise direction. On the other hand, a lack of artillery indicated an isolated unit. What action did he decide to take? Once he assessed that his enemy was a small, isolated position, Major Steinkeller knew that an envelopment would cut them off and cause a collapse. The terrain to the north was less steep and had a number of dirt roads available. He would not fight in the muddy river bottom, the enemy's selected engagement area, where they had prepared their defenses. His attack had to be fast, because his enveloping force needed daylight to find a route. His support by fire element needed daylight to place effective fire on the enemy and then shift their fires south. Major Steinkeller knew that darkness would help the enemy hide, increase the risk of friendly fire, and slow down his units, possibly until morning.